Okay, this is Dodge Intrepid 2002, and we're going to replace the water pump. There's been some leaks too, bit of leaking here. There was also a leak there, and I've replaced the coolant tank. There was a crack there, and now there's leaking from underneath the weep hole near the thermostat housing, so which means water pumps leaking. And looking at the oil cover, there is no yellow residue, so we don't have a major problem. The oil is not contaminated, so we are good. Change it early and coolant won't leak into the oil. Neglect the leak, eventually coolant will go into the oil. Okay, so here it is. This piece shroud has been removed, and as a result now we can see here's the AC condenser, here's the coolant condenser, and the fans. Need to remove the fans next, but before I remove the fans, I've already drained the coolant. As you can see, the drain there, there's coolant in there. That's going to be discarded. Okay, here it is. The radiator has been pulled off. Now, things to watch out for. The radiator is attached to the air conditioning compressor, this guy here. There are two bolts on this side that is basically 3/4 down on both sides here, where that bracket is, if you can see. And you've got to undo those bolts. Once you undo those bolts, there's all the tubing here, which is related to transmission fluid cooling, that has to be pulled out from the radiator, right? And then tricky part is there are two, see, that's the transmission cooler. There's two metal pipes that you can see right down there, there. There's two metal pipes. They wrap around and they are actually clamped onto the radiator housing at the side. There is a bolt, a small 8mm bolt that you need to pull out, that will remove the clamp, and that will detach these metal hoses that you see here at the bottom. Here, see those metal hoses there? There are two of them. They are attached to the radiator at the side of the radiator. By pulling that out, then you can detach the radiator off this air conditioning condenser. The air conditioning condenser has not been decompressed, so my air conditioning is still good. Okay, be very careful. I put like this yellow thing to protect the condenser from hitting other sharp metal objects like these things, because if you have a leak on your condenser, well, that's an extra expense, because now your AC won't work. But right now I'm good. And do remember, you do not need to pull this out. That's a transmission cooler. It's actually attached to the air conditioning condenser. Do not pull that out. Okay, and that's it for now. And then I just clean the base where the radiator sat. It's all mucky and dirty. I'll show you the radiator next. Okay, so here's the radiator as it has been pulled out of the car. This is what you see on the inside. The fan shroud has been removed. That's the upper hose. Those are the bolts for the fan. These bolts here to hold the fan. That's the upper hose. That's the lower hose. Transmission oil cooling hoses. Transmission oil cooling hoses. And here's that coupling bolt that clamps the two metal hoses that goes to and attaches to the radiator, the AC condenser, this guy here. That's all you need to detach. Once you undo this bolt, this whole thing comes off, and these hoses detach, and then this guy can be pulled out gently. It is hooked up onto these hooks. You'll figure that out. These are the bolts that were bolting the condenser, the AC condenser, to the radiator. 1 and 2. They have to be pulled up. Okay, so the radiator has been pulled out. This is the air conditioner compressor. That is still under pressure, so I've put these to protect it, so therefore I don't whack it and puncture it and get me more expense. But here we go. The pulley, the power steering pump had to be removed because I do not want to remove the pulley, because if I remove the pulley I have to realign it. That will be a pain, so it's so much easier to just remove the pump. To remove the pump you just have to remove 3 screws. See those 3 screw holes there? 1, 2, 3. All of them are accessible through the pulley holes. There's holes in the pulley. Just need a socket set and pull them out. See, 1, 2 and 3, and the pump loosens up very easily. Once that's dislocated or moved out of the way, so you can take it out completely out of the way, so therefore you can gain access to these nuts. These nuts, they hold the tensioner, the belt tensioner in place. It's a tensioner bracket. You must remove that. You must remove this guy in order to gain access to the tensioner bracket, and you have to remove tensioner bracket to gain access to these nuts here. Right, so it's not too hard to do. Then also this air conditioning tensioner bracket has to be removed, consisting of these 2 guys here. You need a breaker bar to pull, so therefore reduce the tension on the spring, so you can unloosen and remove this guy. Once this guy has been pulled out, then you can let go of the spring and you can take your time pulling this out, and the whole bracket comes off. Obviously you need to pull that out so you can gain access to these nuts. This is a hex nut, Allen key, Torx. It's a Torx, so that's the only Torx screw. You need to get rid of that. I use a 3-jaw puller to pull the crankshaft pulley off. I rented it from Murray's for free. You just have to whack in a deposit, so I didn't have to spend $80 buying that tool. It takes just 10 minutes to pull it out. It's designed for this car. So here, let me show you the unit. That's this guy here. So special 3-jaw puller, low profile. Use this guy, this and this. Don't need to use that one. And it came out nicely. And so here are the goodies. So here's the pulley. Here are the tensioners. They spin well, so I'm not going to bother replacing them. And now I tried to find a 12-inch hex key. Could not find one. The closest I could get was 7/16 of an inch unit. That works on these things, on these guys here. So I used a 7/16 of an inch hex unit to actually remove these screws, and it came out very well. They were really tight, but came out nicely. So very hard to find 12mm hex nuts. 10 seems to be the highest they go. So you can use a 7/16. I found one at Bernard's, so you can go there. Now to get rid of this guy, just a matter of pulling this guy out. Right, I already loosened it up. And this is the oil pressure sensor, and then you gain access to that guy and loosen it up. Right now I've just put these all back, so therefore dirt doesn't go inside. You know, later on I'll put it somewhere else. But in the meantime, and then remove these guys too, by the way. Right, so that's it for now. Next is we'll be removing all these screws to get this cover off. And as you can see, my timing chain cover seal is not that good because there's a lot of oil marks at the bottom there, so good opportunity to put new seal, and hopefully that'll seal my leak too. Alright, next. Okay, so today I undid all the screws, which was relatively straightforward, to get the timing cover off. So this is just the bottom cover off at the moment. So you can see the chain. Right, there's a water pump, and that's about it. Condition's okay, chain looks okay. Next I'll have to start pulling these guys off to get these guys off, so therefore we can see the pump cams. But so far so good. Here is the timing cover. I'll be changing the seal for it, and the engine looks in relatively good condition considering it's 130,000 miles, because I use Mobil 1 synthetic. Okay, I jumped ahead a bit and took the intake manifold, upper manifold off. It is a bit of a pain, but just because there's so many screws and stuff, electrical connectors that you have to pull out. Ideally just get a manual, and that will show you what to do. Just too much details to go through, but actually if you look around you'll see you've got to pull this off and stuff like that. And once you get the upper intake manifold off, you do not need to remove this guy, which is great. This guy there, right? And oh yeah, also this piece here, I previously incorrectly told it was a oil pressure gauge. No, it's a crankshaft sensor. All right. Now I'm removing this guy, this thing here, so therefore we can gain access to the timing chain. Relatively easy. Got to pull off the plugs, the plug coils. These guys here got to be pulled off. Just take out the two screws and then just pull it out like as if you're changing a spark plug. For convenience, disconnect the electrical connector to it, or else those plug packs will be hanging around here. You don't want that. And then just undo all these screws. Right, you need a deep socket to get these ones off, and then this thing just lifts off. Okay, and I'll show you exactly how it looks inside, but then it lifts off, and that's not too bad. Trying to remove this one is a bit tougher. There's a lot more stuff at the back, a lot more tubing and stuff that is kind of in the way. I may not plan to remove this because I'm not planning to change my timing chain, and since I'm not planning to change my timing chain, I don't need to remove this guy, because I can just loosen the timing chain from the sprocket from here. And that's it for now. Alright. After removing this cover, which is now here, here's the engine. Things that are important is, let's see, if you look in here, that cylinder, that's the tensioner in there. That's the tensioner. Right, timing chain tensioner. I'm going to pull that out, so therefore we can pull out that timing chain guide by just removing that nut there, and that will loosen up the timing chain. I may choose to undo these bolts to loosen up the timing chain further so I can get to the water pump. Okay, I'm not touching this side, not necessary. If I need to gain access to the pump bolts, then I might remove this guide. To remove this guide, we've got to pull this guy out, and they'll give us access to a bolt, 1, 2, and this will come off. Okay, but as you can see, the engine's pretty clean because I've been using Mobil 1 synthetic since like the engine was 11,000 miles, and now it's like 133,000 miles. Still looks almost new. mobile one's pretty good.